In the wake of Kevin Hart's terrifying car crash back in September of 2019, TMZ reports that no one in the car that night has filed a lawsuit or been sued. On September 1st, Hart was a passenger in his 1970 Plymouth Barracuda when the driver of the car, Hart's friend and producer Jared Black, lost control and crashed through some wooden fencing. It was just before 1 a.m. in Malibu, California. The blue Barracuda crashed about 10 feet off the road and into a ditch, leaving both men with major back injuries and landing Hart in the operating room for spinal surgery. He recently opened up about the aftermath of that crash in an interview with Men's Health, explaining that his recovery process has led him to do better and prioritize his family even more, which his wife, Aniko Parrish, is happy about. She tells Men's Health, quote, "There were times where he was here, but not really here. Not to say he wasn't a family man before, but he's expressed that the accident made him make up for some of the time missed because of work." Meanwhile, Hart went on to add, "I'm not trying to get back to where I was before. I want to do better than before. It's a resurrection. That's the best way for me to put it. I feel like the other version of myself died in that moment, and this new version was born to understand and to do better. I'm glad this is coming now. I'm getting older. I'm 40. You know, this is when I'm supposed to start realizing this bleep." That was his quote. Hart says that the hardest part is slowing down and
You're here with Camille and myself, Katrina, and Billy.
Hey, hi, I'm here. Billy is here.
And we're going to, we finally do have our guests we were have been hoping to talk to. We finally have her here to talk with us. She is the, she wishes to go by the #1 original Negan's Girl, and she is the family member, the first cousin of actor and comedian Dave Chappelle. And she is here to regale us with the facts regarding what happened to Dave Chappelle from the time that he walked away from his Comedy Central show to now. But she wishes to have her voice remain anonymous, so her voice will be distorted to keep her anonymity. So we have her here, and without further ado, Negan's Girl, the mic is yours.
As some of you may know, David had the Chappelle comedy show, and David was doing good on that show. I mean, he was doing great. And David loved that show. David has always loved to make people laugh, and laugh sometimes until your stomach hurts or tears come out your eyes. He was very, very funny, and David has always been a funny type person ever since the time he was a young boy. Much younger. And even when he would come to family reunions, he would always, he would be the in the spotlight making the family laugh, just laugh. And this is something that he always wanted to be, a comedian, to make people laugh. Well, come the time when David, he was the executive producer of the Chappelle comedy show, and as I stated before, he was doing fine. He was doing great. But David knew he had to be responsible for his wife, his children, his mother, and the farm, and for the rest of the members of the Chappelle family. And so he had to take things very serious and take the responsibility very heavy or high. So he did the Chappelle comedy show, and one day he was called into the executive office, and so David went in, and when he went there, he saw all of these executives and others that were around this table, and they had David surrounded like a clock, 12. Okay, and it made David a little nervous because he thought he was talking to a few executives, but not a whole slew of them and other people as well. So he went in to talk to the executive, and they had him surrounded, excuse me, like a clock, and he being at the center of as number 12. Like a clock. Picture in your mind 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and all of them surrounded, and David was at the top, being number 12. Okay, now do you get my drift now? Okay, so now, and I also want to say this as well, before I really get into detail about what they said and what they did to David. Now, it's just like when you go for a job, and they want you on that job for a certain period of time, or even a short period of time. When you go on the job, you have papers that you have to sign before you can even have that position in that facility or what have you. So you have to sign a piece of paper, and especially if they want you there for a long period of time and you are on a salary, not paid per hour, but on a salary. Okay, so you're going to have to sign a piece of paper, and that states that you are with that company and you're there for that period of time. And that is sort of like a contract. Well, for David to have his own show, the Chappelle Show, even though he was the executive producer of that show, he still had to sign a contract. Now, some of you are thinking that he signed his name in blood before he left the executive office, but I'm here to tell you he did not. The only thing David signed when he first got into the industry or the entertainment world to appear on the Chappelle Show was a contract stating that the Chappelle Show would go on for a certain length of time for that season. You understand what I'm saying to you? For that season. Then after that season was up, then he would sign another contract for the next season. And it went on like that, and so when David went into the office, to the executive office, he had just finished up the second season. Okay, now, so they had him at this table, and there was the executives as well as others who were in the office as well. So they asked David, they told him he was doing fine on the show. Great, the show was great, David, but except for one exceptional thing. And David asked, what? And they told David they wanted him to upgrade, or downgrade, I should say, on the black race. As far as the characters he was portraying. They wanted David to ease up off, making the black characters look as stupid as he was portraying them. They wanted him to ease up off the black race. They wanted him to make the black race more intellectual, more, you get what I'm saying. They wanted him to, to quit it. To quit, just hopping on the black race and making them look nonsense. Well, David said, to the executives and then some who were in the room, I don't understand what you're talking about. He said, because I portrayed the characters of the black race just like I portrayed the characters of the white race. And I can't do that. I can't do that. I have to keep both of them on the same level. Well, they didn't mind David downgrading on the white race, but they wanted him to quit downgrading, period, on the black race. And David said, no, well, I can't do that. And so then they said, okay, David, we're going to make a deal with you. And David said, a deal? They said, yes, a deal. They told David, we'll give you $50 million. $50 million if you could come and join our team and be a part of us and this and that. And they told him some other things, which I'm not going to discuss. But you can rest assured the things that they said to David, to tell him what he could do and what he couldn't do, and this and that, and then the torture that they have and the pressure that they put pressure on this man, on David at that time of the meeting. Okay, and David said, no, well, if I accept $50 million from you, what would my fans think? And they said to David this, well, your fans already think that you are a crack addict from the characters that you portray. You know, they already think that, that you're a pothead, that you're a drug head. So, it doesn't matter what your fans think, it's what you are willing to accept. And then they went on to put the pressure on him once more. And David, he said, no, 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 no. I can't accept it. I can't accept the 50 million, and I cannot stop portraying the black race as the same as the white race. He said, no, I can't do it. I can't. You all want me to stop making the black race look foolish, but just continue. No, I can't do it. I have to treat the characters that I portray. It has to be on equal level. You have to understand, David wasn't trying to make the black race look foolish. The only thing that he was doing comedy, just like Richard Pryor, just like Bernie Mac, just like any other top comedian of long ago and today. Red Fox, he wasn't, because see, David knew he was a black man, and David knew where his roots came from. He knew where his roots came from. And so David wasn't trying to make the black race look foolish. No, he was a comedian. He was telling jokes. And just as he did a character of a black person with big white, with the cocaine and all that stuff, with the white lips and what have you, well, he did the same thing. Well, not the same thing, but he portrayed the whites, as the same. So one thing I have to give credit to David about, David believed in keeping both races on an equal level. And then you got to take in granted and for granted too that David was a comedian. Richard Pryor used to do it all the time. Richard Pryor stood up there and talk about the black race and how they, this and that and that and that and all that. And then he went on and he said the same thing about the white race, this and that and this and all that. But the reason why, the reason why they wanted David to quit being, or quit having the blacks to be foolish in the roles or the characters that he was playing was because at that time, they knew, they had gotten word of that eventually there was going to be a black man to be ushered in as our new president. And they wanted people all over to think that, that black people were not this way and black people were not that way, because they were ushering in Obama. That's why they wanted, and David, he wasn't for that. Okay. So David told these executives, David told these executives, he said, well, let me think about this thing for a while. He said, because I can't give you an answer right now. He said, because all that you have said to me, is something where I got to think about. He said, I just can't give you an answer right now. And so with that, when David left out of that office, David called me. Now, I don't know whether he called his brother William or not. I don't know anything about that. But David called me and told me everything that they said to him in the executive office. David told me everything from A to Z. And what David told me, it caused me to get a headache. If I had been in that room, and it would have scared the hell out of me, because it in fact scared the hell out of David Chappelle. And David told me, upon talking to me, he said, cuz I got to go. And I said, you got to go? He said, yes, I got to get out of here. I said, well, David, out of here where? He said, I'm going to Africa. And he said, I said, well, David, you're going to Africa? He said, I got to get my head clear. There's things. He said, I just have to have my own peace of mind. And I said, well, have you told? He said, well, what about Elaine, David? He said, well, I'll deal with Elaine. I'll call Elaine later. He said, but right now I got to go. Now and I found out later, the only person that David had told of going to Africa was me, his brother William, And I think there was a possibility that it was Neil Brennan. And there's a highly thinkable on that. So David went on, and when I told David before before our conversation, I said, David, you go and do what you have to do. And I said, but let me know when you get back in town. Okay. Some of you asked, why did he go to Africa? Because David was a practicing Muslim. And David went to Africa because he knew his faith was over there, his faith. And he knew that practicing Muslims was over there, and they would guide him or steer him in the right direction. Because now his sister was and is today a practicing Muslim. Now, I want to remind you that when David went to Africa, where he was going, no one knew him, because David told me on the telephone, he said, now, cuz where I'm going, he said, where I'm going, no one knows me. He said, I hope they don't, cuz, I hope they don't. He said, I'm going there because I realize and I understand that there are Muslims over there. He said, but I don't know them and they don't know me. And so I said, well, David, go on and do what you have to do. I said, just let me know when you get back. So that's what David did. He went on, and while David was away, I received phone calls. Now, I don't know whether David's brother William received any phone calls, because David's brother William, him and I, we were not as close as David and I were. Me and David, we were tight boys, cousins. And so, but I know I received phone calls asking, have you seen David? Do you know where David is? Even on the street, people would ask me, this David, he's gone. David Chappelle, he's gone. Do you know where he's at? And I knew where David was, but I could not tell anyone, because I told David during our conversation that I would never tell anyone unless he told me to tell them. And he told me on the telephone, because I want you to not let anyone know where I'm going. And I reminded him, I said, David, what about Elaine? He said, I'll call Elaine later on. He said, but right now I got to go. So no one knew where David was. No one. Okay. And I knew that after what David had told me about the meeting with the executives, that I felt really good that David got the hell away. David went away to Africa. Stayed there for a while. When David got ready to come back, David called me and said, cuz, I'm back in town. Well, he let his wife know, and everything was fine there. And David, when he called me, he told me, he said, I'm out of the entertainment world. I don't want to do comedy on television anymore. He said, I'm finished with all of that. I'm finished. I said, Dave, are you sure? He said, yeah, I'm done. I'm done with being on television, doing comedy. He said, what I want to go back to is doing comedy at the little local comedy places. And I said, well, David, are you sure that's what you are? He said, yeah, because he said, I have enough money to take care of my family and my farm and my mother and people in my family. He said, but I just don't want to do any comedy on television. He said, I'm done. And so I'll just do the local comedy at comedy clubs. So I said, okay, David. I said, well, I'm not, this is what you want to put there, David. Once again, I want to ask you, David, did you sign your name in blood before you left when you were in the executives meeting? And so David, because I told you, I didn't sign my name in any, hey, cuz, the only time I signed my name on the contract was to do the Chappelle show. And he said, and I'm done. I'm done with that now. But as far as me signing any other contract, as far as what they say, name and blood, no, I didn't do that. I said, okay, David, that's good. I just want to make sure, this time.
Started his trip to South Africa. I asked him why he decided to go there.
It's a place where I felt safe. It's like it's far away. There's no Comedy Central there. Nobody's gonna say I'm Rick James, bitch to me in Africa. And I can kind of just think about.
Did anyone, by the way, say that to you?
No, I was kind of waiting to. I would have been impressed. But I was just kind of.
Oh, yeah, I'm Rick James, bitch.
Oh man. But I think I just wanted to. You know, I needed a context where I could reflect, and I felt like things around me was so chaotic. Like I was just overwhelmed, and I didn't tell anybody I was going. Which is one of the reasons why I'm so surprised it became a media storm, because I still don't know who tipped the press off.
Really?
Yeah, who would tip the press off?
You didn't even tell your wife.
I didn't even tell my wife, so who told the media?
So anyway, while talking to David, it gave me a sense of hope. You know, that David was going to be all right, because he was finished with the, this Chappelle show, the comedy show on television, and that he wasn't going to do any more appearance on any other, show. And so it gave me a sense of relief for him. But somehow or another, and I still give a question mark on this Neil Brennan, because now Neil Brennan spoke some bad words about David, and which I don't like, and David heard about it, and he didn't like it either. And so, because Neil Brennan was supposed to be one of David's buddies, and for him to say, to make a statement like he did, it was wrong. It was wrong, and I didn't like it, and the rest of the Chappelle family, we didn't like it, they didn't like it, and David didn't like it either. Okay, but they found out somehow that David was back in town, and he was doing, comedy at these little local comedy clubs and things like that. Then this one person, it was put upon her to find out why David went to Africa. Okay, so now first David went to the inside the actor's studio. He was asked to come and be on the show with the host there, and David was fine. He went on the show, and the questions was asked to him. Why did he go to Africa, and what went down? And I remember that David told exactly the same thing that I'm telling you now. That how this whole thing was kind of shaking, and he didn't want no parts of it. Then he also went and he told about Martin Lawrence. Now Martin Lawrence, they did the same thing to him too. But Martin Lawrence, and no one today, we have not seen Martin Lawrence. No one knows where Martin Lawrence is, because you know why? Martin Lawrence is dead. I mean, body, soul, spirit, dead. If you ever see a Martin Lawrence come back on the scene, it's because that Martin Lawrence, before they killed him, they made a clone of Martin Lawrence, and they have that clone in waiting. Waiting for what? I don't know. And but no one has seen Martin Lawrence. No one knows anything about Martin Lawrence anymore. But if you ever, and I say to you all who all are listening, if you see Martin Lawrence, then you know that he's a clone. And because they were supposed to, Martin Lawrence and Will Smith was supposed to be, they supposed to have done a film that was supposed to have came out last summer. But the film never did come out. Why? Because there was no Martin Lawrence. So, I'm just going to, anyway, just wanted to share that with you. But Dave Chappelle went on stage with, and was in the audience. It was a group of young people there who were interested in becoming comedians or becoming actors or what have you. And Dave went there to, to tell them about the business, about the Illuminati, because David felt that what they had said to him in the executive office, he wanted people to know what was going on, just as Martin Lawrence wanted people to know, just as Britney Spears wanted people to know, just as some of the stars here today want people to know about the Illuminati. So that's what David did. David wanted people to know what they were doing to him, and what they were all about. So this is what he said on the stage. So he told them, to make sure that that was a sure thing for them to do, to go into, and he warned them, okay? And then the next person, and when I talked to David, I said, David, you should not go there, you should not go there, you should not go there. But David, he was so afraid that David wanted to expose the inner dark circle. He wanted to expose them. And so the next person who invited David on their show was Oprah Winfrey. And Oprah Winfrey, and I told Dave, I said, Dave, please don't go there. He said, no, cuz I'm going to be all right. He said, but I just want to let people, I want to talk, cuz I want to talk. So I said, okay. So David went on that show. And now, and if you notice or not, when David was on that show, on Oprah Winfrey's show, Oprah was trying to coach him along and saying to him, but you did, you were stressful, weren't you? And David was saying, no, anybody was under stress of what they said to me in that office, but she wanted David to admit things that were not true with David, that was not going on with David at that time. And if you watch the taping show of Oprah and David, if you notice or not, David was looking around to make sure that no one else was coming in behind him. David was fearful of even being on the Oprah show. And then another thing, if you take notice or not, when Oprah was talking, David had his hand over his mouth, and like he was saying to himself, Oprah, I know what you're trying to do. I know what you're trying to do. And so, but David was fearful of being on the Oprah Winfrey show. And not only with the appearance that he was making, the gestures and sort of thing, and the looking around, but when David left the Oprah Winfrey show, I got a phone call. And who was the phone call? None other than David Chappelle. And he told me some things that he speculated of Oprah Winfrey. And I said, David, I told you not to go on that show. I told you not to go on that show. Because Oprah is already into that dark circle. Oprah was the one that ushered Obama into office. And that's one of the reasons why they wanted David to quit on the blacks, because Oprah ushered him in. Oprah was in favor of Obama getting into office. Oprah was behind Obama, on the side of Obama, and as might as well say, in front of Obama. She got him into office. And I said, David, I told you not to go on that show. He said, well, I'm done. I'm done. Now, David finally, once and for all, he got to know where Oprah Winfrey was coming from. David didn't trust Oprah Winfrey, and he was glad that the show was over with. And David told me that when he left Oprah Winfrey, he had to keep looking over his shoulder because he didn't trust Oprah. And well, nobody that, any of us, we know that Oprah is one of the queen bees, dark bees of the Illuminati. And so, I wouldn't trust her. And so, but David felt that it was over. Okay, now, David went home. And things began to happen to David, leading up to the course of time for him to go back into the executive office. Well, I should say, but that's right. Things began, because now I'm not going to pinpoint the exact time and the exact date, but David was receiving threatening letters. He received a package in the mail. It was Bill Cosby. It was who was another? It was Bill Cosby. It was even Al. That's why I don't like Al Sharpton today. It was Bill Cosby, Al Sharpton. It was Whoopi Goldberg, and it was a few others that was into putting the pressure on David to stop this thing with the black race. Now that was before, and it was even afterwards. but they were putting the pressure on him. And so one day, so eventually down the line, David was, doing his comedy in the local comedy clubs, but then he got a phone call again. And he said, he called me and told me, he said, cuz, what he said to his brother, I don't know. But I do know, because David wouldn't, like when David talked to his brother, he wouldn't tell his brother the conversation that him and I had. And because David's brother and him, they were family, but they wasn't like